Atheist, do you miss Jesus from serving Christ? Ooh, provocative. Do you miss Jesus?
I want to make an emotional appeal to you. Do you miss God? Do you miss Jesus? Because I would think that would be very difficult to navigate this life without him.
Oh my God, this is an example of what I'm talking about when I say it's harmful. He can't imagine navigating through life without this made-up shit in his head. How does that not alarm you as an atheist, as a rational human being? This is why I'm an anti-theist. It hurts them. This man is hurt now. This man is, for his whole life, will probably be deeply affected by just this thought. This is just one of many that I find deeply harmful to society. This is just one. And, every time we talk about this, I'm going to bring this up. Every single time. Damn, I would get copyright struck for my neighbor's fucking bangers. Damn.
To lose a friend that cares for you, a friend that looks out for you, a friend that is there for you even in your darkest hour, in your darkest moments.
Dude, he's saying that the guy in his head is his friend. Like, as an atheist, Jesus isn't a magical being that communicates with Christians. Okay? This is textbook delusion. Textbook. Be careful, anti-theism is basically fascism. That's right, it's a slippery slope to acknowledge the reality that this is made up in this guy's head. That's a slippery slope towards being just like Sargon or something. That's right. That's right. Can you believe that's an actual quote? Go. First anti-Dave and now anti-theist. I was warned to be by a true leftist landlord. This is what fascists do. Whew. Quote from who? Hannah.
Always listening, always patient, often forgiving of you, and yet he is always there that you can reach in prayer. I would ask you that question, my atheist friends out there.
Woo! That is fucking stupid. How is this? How do you find this to be reasonable? My atheist friends out there. What? I turn to actual real life people if I have problems in my life. I have friends and stuff. Like, I have real human beings that I talk to that help me navigate life. Like everybody else. Anybody else should. I've never experienced a longing for Jesus. I've never been religious. This is why. I wasn't taught that I'm supposed to. Right? Of course he can't understand like a secular mindset. He's not that. He is longing and for a friend he'll never have. It's nuts.
I know that you're an atheist. I know you've convinced yourself, but in your hearts of hearts, don't you miss him? Don't you miss having that relationship?
Wow, that's fucking crazy. Like, they talk about having a relationship with Jesus, and like, they usually keep that shit to themselves, but this is delusions. This is a mental illness. Like, there's some Christians out there who are like, sort of passive on the whole prospect. This is a mental illness. This is fostered in this guy through the religion. It's not different from like Munchausen by proxy or something, right? Where you convince somebody they're guilty of something, or gaslighting. I mean, it literally is gaslighting. It's not different from these phenomena. I don't know how, as a self-respecting atheist, you can call this anything other than a mental illness that is taught to them by people they were supposed to trust during their upbringing, right? This is nutty stuff. He doesn't have a relationship with a fake guy. This is delusion. This is leading him down a path of mental anguish. This is a phenomenon that you see in cults because it's a cult. It's just a normalized one. Like, it's not Reddit atheism shit. Like, it's so fucking reactionary to hear like, well, if Jesus doesn't exist, therefore you believing you hear Jesus in your head or have a relationship with him is a delusion. Like, that's just how the logic of this works. That's just reality. And if you're not willing to admit the reality that most people live in a delusion, how can you fucking approach this? This is scary, dude. We have, especially as atheists, you have to have a rational understanding of how deeply flawed the human mind is. We are not 100% capable of logic. I am not 100% capable of logic. So we have to try to maintain our logical base. What is the reason for believing in things, right? Why do we believe in stuff? Evidence. Like, these guys don't use any of that. They just make it up in their heads. This is concerning.
Don't you miss having that connection with a God above and there being something more, and not just simply meaning that you'll simply turn into darkness? Please think.
Turn into darkness. How are we going to call it? How are we going to call it turning into darkness, man?
On these things, on
Wait, hold on.
darkness.
Meaning you'll simply turn into darkness.
I hope you have a fantastic day.
What is this metamorphosis thing, this turning into? Punky Gal, thanks so much for the 19 months. Welcome back. It's a program to... I mean, it is. You can be mentally ill through conditioning. Of course. Most mental illness is through conditioning. Right? The condition of, like, being beaten, you're conditioned to have this mental illness, being abused, being, torn down all the time, and it causes anxieties and causes this and that. Most of it's inflicted by us, right? It's how we get brought up. You ask anybody, go to therapy. Every single time you go to therapy, you're fucked up because your parents fucked you up. It's or the lack of parents or whatever. You're how you got brought up is what fucked you up. And it might not even be because they were abusive. It just is how we are. We're imperfect. We suck. We fuck our kids up. We fuck each other up. We don't know, right, how to live because we most people turn to this shit and they go like, "Oh, just pray about it." And then some people out there, thankfully, have a secular mindset and have some mindfulness, and we're starting to parent better. And mental health will get better every generation. I mean, if the trend continues of quality of life, we'll continue to get out of this. We can stop. This is a cycle, dude. I've talked about this many times. How can you think of American history? Think of world history. When's the last time a generation of human beings experienced truly a good upbringing with a non-traumatic environment, right? Nobody. Barely anybody. Only people of deep privilege, essentially, right? And only in the last, 100 years have most white people experienced the privilege of some lack of barbarity. And only in the last fucking, 50 years have people on paper of other races been considered similar class of citizens. I mean, how can you expect us to not have deep traumatic mental illnesses and then add in religion on top of all of that to just exacerbate that problem, right? Because, as atheists, we acknowledge that they don't turn to conventional medicine when it would benefit them. All of these people are opposed to mental health care, for instance. They're all like, nah, go pray about it. Go talk to your pastor about it.
Teach me, Daddy.
Keep this shit private. We have to bottle it up. We can't express ourselves. And you know this. It's anecdotal, and also there's just files of evidence about this. Teach me, Daddy. Thank you, Spider Kasky. Yeah. I mean, obviously there are mental illnesses that happen out of non-nurture shit, but almost every human, anything that affects your life right now, it's almost certainly going to be because of your environment. Almost certainly. There are things that happen, but you can sustain injury or have some kind of thing happen in your development, but trauma's trauma, man. It happens to all of us, and we don't even know it's traumatic at the time, right? I don't know. If you continue to believe the wrong thing, even with the evidence to the contrary, it's delusion. Yeah, it is. That's absolutely the definition of delusion, and this is what it is. It's a delusion. and it might not sound nice or something, but like it just is. He believes that he has a relationship with a fake person, and just because it's normalized doesn't mean it's not a delusion.
Please think on these things.
Mm-hmm.
Do not give up on God, for he has not given up on you.
Bro, the God of the Bible is more malicious than the uncaring gods in like the Cthulhu
I don't
mythos.
do drugs.
I think the mental illness starts when someone
Thank you,
speaks
Screwbucket.
confidently that not only do they know Jesus, but they know what Jesus wants. My Christian friends that believe in Jesus are just followers of his teachings. The alternative is fucking weird.
I mean, yeah, I think this is a worse version of a passive Christian, like I said at the beginning. Thank you for the 5 BD buckos. As far as mental illness is concerned, if they believe that they are having a dialogue with a God, that is a delusion. So if they're praying and they believe that that is a dialogue with their God and they think that that's communication, that's delusion. It just fucking is. It doesn't really matter if we... to the degree to which they have the delusion is certainly up for debate, I guess. You could grade it out. You could be like, this is tier 1 delusion. Tier 2, tier 3, I don't know. However you want to go about it. But there's some people that obviously have like delusions brought on by severe mental illness, which is like something that's out of their control, like they'll have auditory hallucinations or something, visual hallucinations. Sometimes they get delusions involving things like that. Some people have other mental illnesses that give them delusions. This is a socially instilled mental illness that involves a delusion aspect. It's taught. They teach delusion. It's for the purposes of this. Like you wouldn't say that. Like if someone believes that they are, for instance, literally any other thing. Like, I own a unicorn. Yeah, we use like unicorns and Bigfoot stuff. Like I genuinely believe I own a unicorn and it's in my backyard, and then they just deny the evidence to the contrary, and it's like that's fucking delusion, dude. Mass delusion is a documented phenomenon. It's not like. I'm not saying it as a big own. I think we just need to understand it as a fact. Like, we just need to stop coping. It's a delusion. It is. We need to just address it. Like, just because we don't want to believe the entire world believes delusions doesn't mean it's not fucking happening. I don't like the whole world's capitalist too. You stop thinking, I don't think that the revolution is going to happen, but it doesn't stop me from being a communist, man. Depends on the cult. I mean, sure, different cults are going to do different things, but Christianity is a death cult. So, not every mental illness is trauma. Yeah, of course not. But everyone experiences trauma, and all of that's going to lead to some kind of something, dude. It might not be enough to be considered a full-on mental illness, but at minimum, your trauma is going to develop into like hang-ups and fucking like antisocial behaviors or unhealthy coping mechanisms or, emotional states that you don't want. And it's all about untangling all of that as you grow older. To deny that is, I think, again, just like we're not really living in reality if we don't really acknowledge the obvious effects that like simple things, like, someone doing something annoying when you were a kid and you to this day can't fucking deal with that. Or, you watch this, your mom always did this thing and now I can't stand it when people do this thing. Like, it's trauma, man. It is. You think they worship a corpse if there was a real one? Yes. If part of the absolutely what? They worship a corpse right now. If Christianity claimed to have some mummified corpse of someone, they would do it, and they have done this. Christianity literally has done this for saints and stuff, and held mummified corpses. There are Christian corpses around the world right now that are still preserved that they worship. Reliquaries filled with saint corpses. Yeah, they'll worship the Trump corpse. Trump's corpse will be hilarious. That will be hilarious. Dude, I hope Twitter's still around when Trump dies. Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. We only need to squeeze out like fucking 5-10 years, right? Maybe? It could happen at any moment, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, being gullible isn't. So it's a delusion that Trump, is the secret president and is, the Kraken is going to be exposed. Like, that's a delusion as well. This is a similar delusion. Believing Jesus is a real person that affects your life is a delusion because he's not real. Yeah, I mean, this is just a delusion. It's fine. Believing in Vishnu is also a delusion. Believing in Muhammad and Buddha affecting your lives, that's delusional. I think living in reality is good, actually. Personally, that's what I think. Yeah, personal delusions. Well, I don't know if they're mental illnesses. Who cares? You guys can squabble about if they're mental illnesses or not, but they're delusions. Other mental illnesses will occur because of that delusion, however. Right? So now, I mean, anxiety about death is a huge one for Christians. Right? I mean, and then just the way that they bury stuff, they don't talk about things because they pray about it instead of talking with each other. I mean, the patriarchal system in itself, literally, original sin leads to people's deep mental illness and anguish. People have lots of depression and anxiety over the concept of original sin. Their delusion just exacerbates this thing. I mean, the delusion itself might be considered a mental illness at some point in the future, though. I mean, they literally believe in a non-true thing, but because it's socially engineered. I don't know if I would call it a mental illness just for believing in a god. But it's a delusion. I mean, it is. If you believe that there's a thing that exists without any evidence to support it, that's a delusion. That's what despite contrary evidence, I believe is what delusion definition. A false belief or judgment about external reality held despite incontrovertible evidence to the contrary, occurring especially in mental conditions. So especially in mental conditions, you can see that. But incontrovertible evidence to the contrary, which is absolutely the truth about our reality. Yeah, and then if you're telling me there's an atheist, now because I had this opinion before, I'm not willing to move on my opinion, even though Jake's just said I was wrong, and I'm not going to come around on this. Now you have to defend that there isn't incontrovertible evidence to the contrary of the claim that God exists, which makes you not an atheist but an agnostic, which means now you have to walk back a bunch of things that you just said you believe about yourself. So which is the lie, right? Because it is incontrovertibly true that reality exists and does not corroborate the existence of a God. That is incontrovertible. I mean, I'm right, man. It doesn't have, you can be upsetty. It's okay to be upsetty about everyone experiencing delusion that you know and love, probably, right? But it is what it is. I'm really just medicalizing it. I mean, I don't know about you, but it doesn't have to be a medical thing for that guy to have a delusion. You don't have to like it for it to be real. I don't care if you like it. I like saying your name, but I don't care if you like it being medicalized. It's not medicalizing. It's a delusion. It happens in their brain. Their brain is a physical organ that is negatively affected by this delusion. It's just true. I don't like that it happens either. The problem is that by calling it a delusion, you're implying that religion is a mental illness. Unless you listen to the fucking words I say, and then you can just, then you're good. You're like, well, I'm not sure I'm ready. I just said out loud 1 second ago, I'm not ready to call just belief itself a mental illness because belief is a socially constructed thing. However, I think you'd consider someone that has Munchausen by proxy to have a mental illness. And that is the same thing. They're making someone believe an untrue thing about themselves. It's not different. We're just behind the times on this one because it's ubiquitous. There are delusions and things that happen from the trauma of this that will cause mental illness. Religion is tightly tied to mental illness in the same way that anyone's parents are. People think you're doing exactly what you said you weren't. Yeah. So I'm saying right now that you're wrong, Atomic Crouton. That's pretty tough. It wouldn't be the first time you were wrong about this topic. It'll happen again until you come around. You're just wrong about it. You can say, you're implying something else when I'm not fucking doing that, and that's your fault. That'll be on you. You don't choose your religion. Right, which is why you don't choose to have other mental illnesses placed on you either. I agree. That's not how they work. You don't choose to be fucking abused. You don't choose to be, put down and have anxiety caused upon you. These are, of course, they're against your fucking consent. Yeah. I definitely think it's a catalyst for mental illness. If you want to go as far as to say that it's a mental illness to be religious, I feel that. That's not what I'm saying, though. Right. I think the belief itself, like a petri dish, fosters mental illness. Of course it does. You're not attached to reality. You live in a delusion, and you don't have a connection to reality in a way that will help your mental health. I mean, it just is true. It obviously is true. Every time I demonstrate this, I get pushback, and every single time it's like, well, I just don't really like the words. It's like, well, you're fucking wrong. It is what it is. It's just wrong. It doesn't matter if you feel bad about it. I agree that I feel bad about it. It makes me feel upsetty. It's medical. Well, it should be medicalized, I think. I think we should probably give these people fucking mental health. If you don't, to say the medicalizing thing, man, I hear this sometimes. It's like, do you think that every person needs to have mental health, practiced on them? Yes. And why is that? It's an acknowledgement that every single one of us is fucked up to some degree, right? It wasn't our doing necessarily, but we're all fucked up. Of course we are. We're little monkeys. We are fucked up little monkeys, and it's hard to live, and we just need to acknowledge that. And I have no idea why people think that, being, just because I don't have, fucking a myriad of mental illnesses or something, that I don't have anything that goes on. I have, I feel like we have such a precious notion of mental illness right now, instead of acknowledging that, we all fucking have it. Some people are just way more affected and need more resources now because we have such a dearth of fucking help in this country. We all have this thing. Some people have it more, okay? Some people have a lot more, and they need more help. And so we should be able to give people and prioritize that. But, just because I'm, a normal guy doesn't mean I couldn't benefit from fucking therapy, right? So when I say all Christians share this delusion, I mean, you can take that as some kind of fucking... It's just a reality. I need mental health care like anybody else. I may not need it as urgently, right? And some Christians might not have their delusion so firmly set, right? But they all, to some degree, think they have a dialogue with a fucking God that doesn't exist. And they think that hell is real, and they have original sin, and that they're going to heaven, and that they don't really die when they die, and which leads to a myriad of problems, all of which you can count on exhibiting themselves in humans as mental illnesses. Because of course, to deny this seems really stupid to me. It seems like wishful thinking, naive. It seems like you're more worried about the tone of it than you are about the fucking reality of it. And it makes me think you're not a serious person about this issue, personally. I'm quite convicted on this issue, as you can tell. This issue is part and parcel the whole thing I've been doing the whole time. Religion is bad. It's bad to believe it inherently to the individual. It's bad for society for people to believe it at large. For the same reasons, essentially. This is consistent. There's not even denying this. It's not even arguable. I'm just right. I'm not even having a take. I'm literally just reading facts to you. People go to the doctor just for regular checkups because we acknowledge that we need to keep track of our health. Mental health is part of that too. Yeah. But of course, when you have entire swaths of people that deny the efficacy of this in lieu of prayer, what do you think that community is going to do? Look at the overlap on just the census maps of where religious centers are, and then anything that is bad, it overlaps. Sexual assaults, drug use, fucking teen pregnancies, low education rates, high incarceration rates, lots of murder and death. All of it is associated with the fucking religion, due to either the mentality it instills in people, society at large, or the policies that these people vote for and instill in society at large. Every single time. It's statistical coincidence forever. Just a coincidence? We're not gonna be like, oh well, that's the fucking problem. Can also overlap because it's ubiquitous. It can, but that's not what we're seeing. It's not that it can. It's that you can predict it and it happens. They die at higher numbers of COVID. They vote at higher numbers for Republicans and fascists. All of them. The correlation is the causation. It is. They tell you it is. Every day. I'm a Christian conservative, and I like this and that, and it's all bad. And I hate the gays and the transes, and I'm a Christian conservative, and I'm a man, and women shouldn't have rights. Every day they tell you this shit. This turned into a rant video. I'm right. I will be right about this. It just is what it is. I didn't see a mental health professional until I was 42. Surprised I had trauma from family deaths when I was younger and other things to sort out. Who'd have thunk it? Right? And stuff you'll never think of, right? Like, I have to do a lot of introspection and talk about stuff. I've had to do drugs, try to figure stuff out. You're like, man, why does this bother me? Oh, it's because mom, dad, whatever, this or that. I believe that you believe you're right. Atomic Crouton, there is a reason that you are in the minority here. It's because you're wrong. There's a reason we're on the opposite side of this exchange. It's because you're wrong about this. You've been wrong about this multiple times. It keeps happening. Literally, it's tone policing at best. That's the argument, tone policing. Well, I'll call it a delusion because it implies mental illness, even though I say something to the contrary. You're like, well, that's harmful. I don't care. You know what's more harmful? Having the delusion. That's more harmful. Don't care. Oh, no. Someone might believe that the Christians have delusions? Wow, shit. Hope nobody gets them mental health care immediately. I don't care. They are. Fallacy of mass appeal. Fallacy of pretending that mass appeal has nothing to do with the correct opinion on this. It just is what it is. Correct opinion? No, it's not. This is the correct opinion. This is absolutely the correct opinion. That God is not real, and it is a delusion to believe in that. That's just easy. They're literally definitionally delusional. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't make it up. Philosophy 101, let's go. Yeah, sure. Well, technically, you can't even know that you know anything. Sure. Who was that guy? There was that Christian apologist that did that shit. What was his name? He had a funny name. Cy-10 Bennett Bruggencate. That's who it was. Cy-10 Bruggencate. Yeah. He was a presuppositional. How do you even know you know anything if God doesn't exist? Philosophy 101 type shit, yeah. How do you know anything? Well, here I am knowing stuff. And if we can acknowledge that reality is real, we can get really far. And he's like, can you acknowledge now that reality is real? It's like, well, that's your brain on Christianity, isn't it? Asking whether or not, am I seeing reality right now with my eyes? You are. You are seeing reality with your eyes. It's real. There it is. Were you there? Did you see it happen? Jesus saw it happen. Look at this banana, dude. The banana. Bananas are perfect for your hands, except perception is not perfect. Dillis Filler, if you are in deep, if you have a genuine conundrum about reality being real, then that's a you thing. I don't think you do, though, right? Like, you're not implying that you have an what is real thing going on. Right. So I think we can acknowledge that reality is real. Even if your perception is off, you'd be like, yeah, reality is real. You're currently making an argument that I was joking about that you making about Cy-10 Bruggencate. Please don't actually start taking the Cy-10 Bruggencate route just to try, because you're digging in. This is what happens. We dig in when we're wrong, and then we're going to start defending things we don't actually believe because we were wrong about our stance before. And it's frustrating to be wrong about that. I get it. But we don't have to go. We have to go the next step and be like, well, I don't know. Maybe presupposing reality is real is a slippery slope to bad arguments. Like, it's not. It's not one. Presupposing things that live outside reality are real. Now that's a problem. This is how apology baskets. Yeah. Anyway, it's an emotional appeal. I understand why you would be like, well, I don't want to medicalize this thing because it's been normalized for so long, and that would mean that it would be somehow, it would discount, it would somehow lower the value of people who experience genuine delusions. Okay, do you think that Cult of the Mother God is experiencing delusion, or the people that thought they were going to get picked up in the spaceships, or Mormons, Scientologists, Jehovah's Witnesses? At what point of popularity, which you said wasn't a valid thing to argue about, we can't say that popular. Okay, so is its popularity the thing that keeps it from being a delusion? Because it seems that we're okay with it in small groups, that's delusional. But once it's large groups, we're like, well, it's less delusional now, more people believe it. What would you like me to call their, definitionally, they believe a false belief about external reality held despite incontrovertible evidence to the contrary. Besides that, what word would you like me to use? So, because delusion doesn't only mean mental illnesses, and this is your problem. Like, it's just tone policing. Delusion is the word. I generally do think the more people believe it makes it less medically delusional, but I don't know why. That doesn't make any sense. More people believing it makes it less medically delusional? Why? That's not a good argument. No! More people have anxiety, it becomes less of a problem. You know what I mean? Like, more people have clinical anxiety from the same belief of something. That's bad. We shouldn't encourage that behavior. A doctor would be less inclined to call it that. The Christian doctor? Yeah, I know. I agree that people not wanting to call Christianity delusional is not, like, I agree it's not a popular opinion. Shocking. I agree. Man, it's a social delusion. We instill this delusion in people. It's true. It's like how the person came to the belief, held despite incontrovertible evidence to the contrary. Yeah, you can absolutely be brainwashed into delusion, like Munchausen syndrome, which I brought up, which still leads to people having delusional thoughts, which is clinically proven. Like, because it's forced on you by another person doesn't make it not delusion. In fact, most delusions are likely responses to people's behavior leading them down to that path, right? Most delusions are not just like schizophrenic delusions or whatever, right? Some people have schizophrenic delusions. Most people's delusions are like not that. If everyone is delusional, then it makes it less delusional. Sounds delusional to me. I only know the term through a schizophrenic kind. Well, it's not. Well, you don't have to apologize. It's not. I'm not only talking to you, Sprigatata. It's just the definition of the fucking word. People use this colloquially. Colloquialisms are real. Like, there are delusions of grandeur, or specific types of delusions, for instance. There are types of delusions. A misapprehension. A mistaken belief. Like, these are all synonyms for it. Like, if I called it a fantasy, you'd be like, oh, no problem. Psychosis? Well, psychosis would be a diagnosis. Psychosis refers to a collection of symptoms that affect the mind where there has been some loss of contact with reality. I mean, psychosis would definitely be like questioning your reality. This is way different than what I'm talking about. No, this is way different. This is I mean, you're gonna like have an an episode of psychosis. No. This is not what I'm saying. No, I would say psychosis if that's what I meant. Believing things that are not actually true. So you have to. This might involve seeing or hearing people that they cannot see or hear, hallucinations. So if they're hallucinating the word of God, I might consider this psychosis. And this has happened. But this is what I'm talking about with the way that religion exacerbates mental illness and causes like the petri dish for these things to grow. I would say that that's not just the religion. I say that that's that person's interaction with it that causes like a different level of that. Because I don't think every Christian has hallucinations of prayer or anything. I'm sure some of them might lie about it, be like, oh yeah, I've totally heard the word of God or something, but I don't think that, as far as losing contact with reality, believing things that are not actually true is, I mean, part and parcel to the delusion. So there's that again. Just believing things that aren't true, which is just a delusion, which isn't part of psychosis, but isn't the only thing. It may also involve confused, disordered thinking and speaking. So this is usually like, this is like deep mental thing. Like, this isn't just going to happen because you're, go to church on Sunday. You know what I mean? This is like during times of stress, and like, this is not what I'm talking about. So yeah, but definitely delusion. If you want to call it a misapprehension, what is this? A mistaken belief or interpretation of something. I mean, that's like not really what we're talking about. It's sort of that. But this, a false belief held about external reality despite incontrovertible evidence to the contrary. Yeah. Having a delusion does not mean a person is delusional. That's true, yeah. It's like the difference between a professional basketball player and someone who plays as a hobby. I agree. I think if you're wholly delusional, there would be probably other shit going on. Yeah. But definitely, the religious belief is a delusion. Particularly this last guy that we were watching. That's what I was talking about. But If you believe that you are fucking friends with Jesus, that's pretty fucking bad. You don't want that. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's just pretty simple. Now that I've been told it isn't like being used like a diagnosis, I do mind it much less. Of course, right? I understand how some people immediately have this sensitivity to it, though, due to the way we handle mental health. But I mean, how dare you mock being friends with Jesus, right?